Greetings, crime fans. If those gritty late-night forensic puzzles from CSI ever stole your sleep, then this deep dive was made especially for your curated viewing pleasure. Forget the microscopic DNA strands or the crimson stains that built this empire. We're moving past the evidence to explore a far more enduring and human enigma. 2 decades later, where exactly has the winding road of life taken these beloved, familiar faces? Who managed to stay in the limelight and who stumbled through dark personal struggles? Are there heartbreaking losses that still haunt us? Come along as we uncover their current realities because the story continues after the credits. While the screen eventually goes dark, reality flows in unpredictable ways. Let's talk about Gary Dourdan, who was only 34 when this madness started. Stepping into Warwick Brown's shoes, he crafted a forensic genius who lived on the edge, constantly torn between 2 very different and clashing worlds of existence. Possessing a sharp clinical brain and a spirit quietly heavy with past regrets, Warwick was a perfectionist who obsessed over every single tiny detail in sight. Out on the streets, however, he was fearless, diving headfirst into lethal situations just to drag the hidden truth into the light. Those quiet lab hours under the sterile cold blue hum of the overhead lights showcased his deep inner fragility more than any other moment. This gave fans a front-row seat to the raw, flawed humanity of a hero who was far from perfect. When his tragic end arrived, it didn't feel like a plot point. It was a visceral, gut-wrenching punch to the entire audience. It served as a grim reminder that seekers of truth can be swallowed by the same darkness they battle. Today, Dourdan is 59. Since walking away from the lab, he's popped up in various films, yet nothing has quite captured that same lightning in a bottle. He also navigated some messy legal battles that definitely bruised his public reputation. Regardless, loyal fans still hold a flame for him, cherishing his soulful and incredibly intense performance as the unforgettable Warwick Brown even today. It is a masterclass in acting that remains deeply relevant. William Peterson was 47 when he became the iconic Gil Grissom, infusing the squad with a cold academic and highly sophisticated brand of logic. Beneath that icy professional mask, however, lived a profound empathy for the victims and the broken people caught in the crosshairs of tragedy. He radiated pure, unyielding integrity. With Sarah Seidel, he forged a subtle intellectual romance where cold, hard facts eventually surrendered to raw emotion. Grissom usually stayed in the shadows. But when a lead went cold, he was the one to crack the code using the most microscopic and overlooked pieces. Maybe an exotic bug or a faint chemical trace. He proved that solving crimes wasn't about high-octane shootouts or cheap theatrical drama. It was all about the art of observation and stone-cold patience. Today, William Peterson is 72 years old. Years before, he had already gained massive praise for playing a hard-boiled law enforcement officer. He later balanced steady TV gigs with theater work while also pulling the strings as a powerful executive producer behind the camera lens. To this day, he is lauded for his brainy acting style and his massive impact on the world of gritty, character-driven television. Marg Helgenberger was 42 when she took the world by storm as the resilient Catherine Willows. She gifted the CSI squad a vibe that was simultaneously incredibly tough and quietly marked by her own inner pain. She played a brilliant blood analyst who read a crime scene with the same intimacy one might use to scan a private diary. Away from the morgue, she was a fierce single mom fighting to juggle her gruesome career with raising her beloved daughter, Lindsay. Catherine never backed down from a fight, and she never tried to mask the emotional battle scars she wore daily. That grit turned her into the squad's heartbeat. She was a woman anchored between the scales of justice and pure chaos. She chose to keep moving even when her soul was pushed to the breaking point. Today, Margie Helgenberger is 67 years old. Long before this breakout moment, she was already a critical darling, snatching up prestigious awards and major nominations for her TV roles. Since then, she stayed busy in Hollywood and has even suited back up for a few nostalgic returns to her famous character. She is still celebrated for her poise, her power, and the incredible emotional layers she adds to every single project. George Eads was 33 when we landed the part of the fan-favorite investigator, Nick Stokes. He played a guy from a solid middle-class background with a rock-solid moral compass and a total devotion to the law. As a driven tech, he was usually the one found kneeling over the dirt examining the evidence for hours on end. It was like he was whispering to the victims. He naturally became the team's emotional glue whenever the pressure started to boil over. However, his terrifying kidnapping and brush with the grave forced a massive psychological shift, making him confront his darkest, most hidden fears. After that ordeal, he wasn't just some bright-eyed rookie who thought the world was a safe, happy place for everyone involved. He became a man who had stared into the abyss and decided to keep swinging. Today, George Eads is 58 years old. Since his departure, he has kept his career alive by starring in several very high-profile television series. He even scored a lead in a high-octane drama reboot, yet messy contract disputes saw him walk away much sooner than his loyal fans had ever truly hoped for. Regardless, his iconic turn as Nick Stokes remains. The absolute peak of his professional journey, a legendary performance that die-hard viewers still hold very close to their hearts today. At 32, Georgia Fox burst onto the screen as the brilliant investigator Sarah Seidel on the smash hit series CSI. She gave life to arguably the most layered forensic expert in the group, a master at tracking down microscopic trace and chemical clues whose relentless drive for the truth frequently pushed her into deep, solitary social isolation. Burning the midnight oil while glued to her microscope, she wasn't just hunting for cold DNA, she was desperately trying to mend her own broken soul and find some inner peace. That chilling moment she went missing during a brutal desert probe left the audience paralyzed with fear for her character. But the loss of a vital emotional core showing that beneath the sterile lab gear beat a heart that was soft yet remarkably resilient against the world. Now, 57 Georgia Fox was already a rising star in television long before she became a household name on this gritty crime drama. She has stepped back into the shoes of the woman who defined her career, a move to thank the fans who still adore her. Thoughtful, profoundly human acting performance. Barely 25, Eric Smanda made a splash as Greg Sanders, the quirky DNA whiz known for his wild and neon hair colors. He radiated the classic, edgy energy of a rebellious young scientific lab prodigy. A rock music junkie who talked fast and thought faster, he often left his bosses stunned by his sheer youthful audacity and confidence. However, behind that cool kid exterior lived a brilliant mind and a genuine hunger to truly earn his rightful place. While lab work was just math, the gritty fieldwork forced him to face death, molding him into a battle-hardened, compassionate investigator who understood the weight of loss. Currently, Eric Smanda is 50 and has mostly stayed out of the limelight, choosing a peaceful life away from the prying eyes of the celebrity paparazzi. Even though he never chased after another massive breakout blockbuster performance of that scale, his legacy is forever linked to the man he played for 10 years, a character that old-school fans still view as an absolutely crucial and cherished member of the unit. Paul Guilfoyle was 51 when he took on Jim Brass, a grisly detective forged in the brutal fires of old-school street work. To him, gut feelings and past traumas were just as vital as the fancy lab science. He was the rock at messy crime scenes, maintaining a tight bond with Gil Grissom based on respect even when styles clashed. While one trusted cold hard facts, the other leaned on a sixth sense sharpened by decades on the force, acting as the protective anchor for the whole group. But Darsaschimikai. Odasedinning sedin saitanan. Tidesanadsihindidan minchiankindan osand. His messy drama with his daughter Ellie was a constant painful reminder of the heavy price one pays for a life of total devotion to duty. Fast forward to now, and Paul Guilfoyle is 76. Boasting a resume in theater and movies, he specialized in playing power players with dark secrets. Since hanging up his badge, he has stayed busy with various TV gigs and indie films, solidifying his status as a master of his craft instead of a celebrity hunting for headlines. At 53, Robert David Hall stepped into the morgue as the unforgettable Dr. Al Robbins. He played an expert coroner who thrived in the icy silence of death while radiating an unexpected kindness and gentle wit. He had a profound reverence for the living, treating every single person with total dignity and respect. He used dry humor to lighten the mood during horrific cases, not to be disrespectful, but to keep the team's spirits from breaking under the weight of tragedy. During those exhausting late-night shifts, his meticulous findings were the golden keys that unlocked the truth for the various lead detectives. He wasn't chasing suspects, but he was the moral compass. Now, Robert David Hall is 79 years old. Long before the cameras rolled, he was a radio pro and a talented musician with a soul that lived for the art of music. Following a tragic 1978 car crash that cost him both legs, he refused to give up his acting dreams, pushing forward with insane grit to become a legendary icon of strength throughout the cutthroat Hollywood business. David Berman was just 27 when he became David Phillips, the loyal right-hand man who assisted Dr. Al Robbins through every single gruesome medical autopsy. Switching from technical setups to the surgical recording of evidence, he operated with a chillingly calm demeanor and a level of absolute accuracy. He surfaced during the heaviest cases where the mask fell and the truth finally emerged through undeniable and cold forensic proof. While he was never one for small talk, his rare contributions often provided that one smoking gun detail that cracked cases open. This reliability made him an indispensable asset and a quiet powerhouse, proving that steady behind-the-scenes commitment is its own kind of legendary strength. Fast forward to today, and David Berman has reached the age of 52, choosing to maintain a powerful influence far away from the cameras. He focused his talents on production and acted as a high-level technical advisor for several other major television drama projects. Opting to lend his deep expertise from the shadows, he solidified his status as an elite professional without needing to be on screen. His legacy stems from professional mastery instead of the public spotlight. Wallace Langham was exactly 38 years old when he first stepped onto the crime scene as the unforgettable David Hodges. He breathed life into a forensics expert who paired a terrifyingly sharp intellect with a swagger that often bordered on total arrogance. That massive ego felt like armor worn by a man who was clearly addicted to being the most brilliant mind in any room. He frequently dominated the lab with a barrage of wild theories, some showing pure genius, while others felt like dangerously rushed impulses. However, when the trail went cold, it was almost always Hodges who rescued the case by finding one microscopic, overlooked piece of dust. In those rare moments of genuine peril, his biting sarcasm would vanish, exposing a raw human fragility that most fans never expected to see. This vulnerability reminded us that even geniuses are flawed. Meanwhile, Wallace Langham has reached the milestone age of 60 years old. Throughout his extensive career, he has remained a permanent industry fixture, jumping seamlessly between major cinematic hits and recurring television roles. Directors typically call him for roles that require a razor-sharp wit, a biting tongue, or a touch of delightful eccentricity. Though he might not always be the leading man, he has earned massive respect for making every single character feel completely and utterly iconic. He commands every frame he inhabits. Lawrence Fishburne was 47 when he took the lead as the intense investigator Ray Langston. He stepped into the role of a former medical doctor who traded the sterile safety of surgery for the dark world of forensics. Fueled by a dark obsession with cold cases, he navigated a legend's shadow while learning the ropes from Catherine's expert guidance. He studied under veterans like Nick and Greg while carving out his own uniquely systematic and clinical investigation style. His obsessive thirst for the truth often put him in the crosshairs of some of the most twisted and manipulative serial offenders. The boundary between his academic research and his personal demons eventually blurred, giving his performance a hauntingly quiet but dangerously focused intensity. He treated a crime scene like a patient on an operating table. Today, the legendary Lawrence Fishburne is 64 years old. After his stint in criminal forensics, he continued to dominate Hollywood, securing major roles in massive blockbuster franchises and prestigious television dramas. He expanded his influence by moving into production, and with over 40 years of experience, his reputation in the industry remains untouchable. He is celebrated for his incredible range and longevity, backed by a trophy cabinet full of prestigious awards that honor his timeless talent. The industry veteran Ted Danson was 64 years old when he took over the reins of the team as D.B. Russell. He brought a unique vibe to the unit, playing a seasoned leader who balanced decades of experience with a surprisingly gentle heart. Hailing from the Pacific Northwest, he arrived with the unshakable composure of a man who had survived every professional storm thrown his way. He didn't just look at DNA. He listened to his people and picked apart a suspect's psyche with terrifyingly accurate psychological intuition. Finding breakthroughs in the messiest of emotions, he was a humble leader who never hesitated to own up to his own human errors. He stood as a fierce protector of his investigators, acting as the stabilizing force whenever the pressure in the crime lab reached boiling point. He served as the perfect intersection of cold logic and warm empathy. Currently, the beloved Ted Danson is 79 years old. Long before joining the lab, he had already reached icon status with a career spanning all the way back to the 1980s. Following his crime-solving days, he stayed at the top of his game, flourishing in both highbrow dramas and laugh-out-loud comedy series. He possesses a rare chameleonic ability to stay relevant, earning the deep admiration of both older fans and completely new generations of viewers. The talented Elizabeth Shue was 49 years old when she made her debut on the team as the fiery Julie Finley. She played a brilliant and fierce investigator whose outward bravado often hid some very deep and painful psychological scars from her past. Finn was a total powerhouse, never flinching when stepping into a grisly murder scene or staring down a violent suspect under immense pressure. Yet that tough exterior couldn't always block out the heavy psychological price of hunting down the world's most twisted and manipulative killers. There were those quiet, haunting moments where her focus would slip, revealing just how dangerously thin the gap is between predator and prey. She wasn't some untouchable, perfect hero. She was a battle-hardened survivor, fighting her own internal demons while seeking justice for the victims. She kept moving forward despite the heavy emotional weight she carried daily. The legendary Elizabeth Shue is currently 62 years of age. Long before this current chapter of her career, she had already achieved global recognition during the vibrant 1980s. She found massive success through a series of blockbuster film roles and has consistently worked as a top-tier performer ever since. Mastering both silver screen dramas and prestige television projects, she maintains an excellent reputation as a truly versatile performer. Equally at home in gritty drama or action, Elizabeth Harnois was 32 years old when she stepped into the role. Playing Morgan Brody, she portrayed the daughter of a respected forensic professional who grew up surrounded by high-stakes science. Childhood conversations about evidence and justice forged her remarkably tough and resilient spirit from a very young age. Starting her career in internal investigations, she developed a sharp eye for mistakes and carried that skepticism into the team. She was lightning fast at crime scenes, bold in every debate, and never afraid to challenge even her most senior superiors. Representing a new generation where youthful ambition blended with hard-earned grit, she worked tirelessly to prove her true value. She proved she was valued not for her famous family name, but for her own impressive skill and integrity. Now, 46, Elizabeth Harnois has come a long way since her early days as a highly talented child performer. She matured into a serious dramatic force, taking on diverse roles after that career-defining and memorable performance. She maintained a steady professional presence even without the intense and blinding spotlight of a massive breakout career peak. Liz Vassy was 33 years old when she first joined the team as Wendy Sims. She played a brilliant and bold DNA expert whose sharp mind and magnetic confidence made her impossible to ignore. Armed with elite scientific training, her meticulous genetic analysis frequently turned major criminal investigations completely upside down. Her witty back and forth with David Hodges added a genuine sense of warmth and charm to the show. Every single time she walked in clutching those lab reports, it often signaled a massive and game-changing case shift. These scenes unmasked buried secrets, proving to the audience that even a tiny microscopic strand of DNA speaks volumes. Liz Vassy is now 53 years old today. Before this long-running hit series, she had already appeared in several popular and very well-known television programs. Following her departure, she transitioned into the world of producing and developing fresh content behind the camera. She built a solid professional path, amassing an impressive fortune estimated at approximately $4 million. This wealth was earned through more than 20 years of dedicated work within the industry. I appreciate you staying to look back at these nostalgic memories together. If you still cherish these Hollywood stories, please follow and share so we can keep exploring the secret lives behind the lights. I look forward to seeing you again soon.